Okay, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. This week on Trent's Life, we do a deep dive on the massive weekend of top 10 matchups. We break down the ACC, I take a trip back to my alma mater, and we catch up with the man behind the big men at Alabama. Buckle your junk, ladies and gentlemen, because Trent's Life starts now. Hey, welcome back to Trent's Life Week 2. Now keep leaving comments below because we love to hear what you're thinking. What'd you like? What do you want to see more of? And maybe what your best guess is as to why I'm so dressed up. Speaking of which, merch. We hear you guys loud and clear. Trust us, we're working on it, and you will not be disappointed. So, now that we got some business out of the way, every good show and every good block starts with the first step. And this week, I'm really interested to talk about this monster weekend of football. Thank you, football gods. 3 top 10 AP matchups, only the second time ever in the history of this sport that we have 3 regular season non-conference matchups in week 1 on the same weekend. Oh my goodness. And the game at the top of that list is the defending national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes, host the #1 preseason team in the Texas Longhorns. Now, there are so many storylines galore, but we'll break it down through the lens of line play. First and foremost, the Texas Longhorns were finalists for the Joe Moore Award last year, but injuries and attrition and the NFL have depleted that room. So Kyle Flood, who we heard from last week in last week's episode, has his hands full. He's got some talent there, but what most fans don't understand is just how long it takes to congeal, to get those 5 to come together as one because of the chemistry. Making that difficult is the fact that they're going to be on the road in one of the loudest environments in our sport. Communication is critical to what offensive linemen do. You couple that with the fact that you've got a brand new starter. He's got a couple starts under his belt, but Arch Manning has to go on the road and direct traffic. The crowd noise is going to be deafening, so he's got to get the play calls coming in. Now, they run fast and they signal, but communication is a problem early on. We saw that in week 0 right out of the gate. So how does Texas navigate all of the things going on, the crowd noise, a defense which has a new coordinator in Matt Patricia, a lot of new players that they may not have tape on. They've got their hands full. But Steve Sarkisian's one of the best play callers in the country, and his job will be to make sure that Arch Manning doesn't have to go out and win the game for the Longhorns, but put him in a position not to lose it, and that's going to be a tall task. Now, on the other side, the Ohio State Buckeyes, they lose Justin Fry to the NFL. He went on to the Arizona Cardinals. He was their coach. They also lost a bunch of their dudes in that room that are doing the same thing. So you have a lot of new players, only 2 returning starters. They go to the portal, bring in some key pieces, but I'm hearing that they have 3 offensive line coaches. So again, the same problems that Texas has with new faces, Ohio State potentially has, but they've got 3 different voices. How do you sort that out, especially with a brand new quarterback in their own right in Julian Sand? Now, Julian Sand, from everything everybody's saying, see what I did there? It was so cheesy. I hate myself. I can't even believe I said that out loud. He's a wheeler and dealer. He can process well, but the Buckeyes would also like to be able to establish the run and keep the pressure off the young guys. You don't have what you had in Will Howard last year. Julian Sand's ceiling is much higher than Will Howard's, in my opinion, but his floor could be much lower, especially against a vaunted front 7 that the Longhorns are bringing to the table. So, play calls early, the ability to run the football, the ability to make adjustments on the sidelines. Fans, it may be ugly early on both sides, but just like Iowa State got it together in the 4th quarter, running out the clock for 12 minutes, the Texas Longhorns and Ohio State, they'll be up to the challenge to maybe do the same thing and walk out of there with a huge victory in week 1. Speaking of victories, there's some great matchups in the top 10, but Notre Dame, my alma mater, is a rivalry renewed as they go on the road to take on the Miami Hurricanes. Earlier in the summer, I got a chance to go back to Notre Dame and sit down with Joe Moore line coach Joe Rudolph. Recently, I went back to my alma mater, Notre Dame, to sit down with offensive line coach Joe Rudolph, not just to talk all things Irish football, but to pull back the curtain on how he's building the vision, mindset, and talent inside one of the most storied trenches in college football.
We put one of these together for the O-line each year, and the front is just like a walkthrough of an overall vision, which say like telescope view, like what do you want to accomplish this year? You know, I usually ask them as an individual player, what do you want to accomplish as an O-line? What do you want to accomplish as a offense, and what do you want to accomplish as a team? And I'm like be a little specific about what your intentions are. Like, what do you want to do? And then we kind of break that down into, okay, what do we need to do in order to make that happen, which forms a plan of action. And that plan of action comes down to the habits and the actions, which becomes the microscope. So telescope view to microscope view and making it real. And we kind of centered around the Joe Moore Award because that's the O-line. Like, we can pull that up and talk about, like, all right, this is something specific about us and about our journey, you know, this year, but this is a foundation of it. And then the back is each year changes. You know, I'll talk to them about, what do you think we need to do in order to be successful this year? And the group kind of talks, and you empower them to come up with what we need to do to be at our best. And talk about being 5 as one, and when we're on the field, those 5, and then a band of brothers, because every guy that isn't on that field has to be equally invested and watching and coaching, and just kind of cool. And one year I did this, and I remember the young man, his name was Jason Erdman. I was like, Jace, I'm like, you remember that thing I gave you? Because he was going through something, and he pulled out his wallet and he pulled it out, and it kind of shocked me. And I was like, you know what, I'm never not doing that. Like, that's something I need to make sure we do every year. So good reminder to me and Coach Ralph. Okay.
I love it. These are great. And they're just one of the many ways that coaches can have impact on players. And obviously Joe Moore was that for me. And one of the first things that Coach Moore taught us, or at least when I came to campus, was about base blocking. We never hit sleds. It was only people. He had his own philosophy. He was old school. Smoked during the meetings, right? So the de-recruitment process was pretty amazing. I didn't even know he smoked, but it was quite the wake-up call. And he said, you know, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I had this car that would break down all the time in the winter. And said I had to push it in the snow. Did I get up there and get on the trunk and push it like this and chop my feet? Or did I get underneath it, lower my shoulders, and drive my legs? He said, and he was, you know, using a desk or a chair as an example. And he's like, that's how we base block. It's not running on boards and chopping your feet with your elbows out. We're tight. We run off the football. We bring our backside, you know, knee and shoulder and elbows in, armless from behind, like all of it over and over and over. And like instantly, it took 2.5 years to figure out how to get my body to do that. But I knew the picture that I was trying to create. Yeah. I intuitively understood what it took to push a car. And that's what I need to do, except that the guy on the other side happened to be Bryant Young or Chris Zorich. And I think it's fascinating to me throughout this process with the award, how little people fully understand about how technical and precise and skilled our position is. There's an argument to be made that the offensive line, maybe aside from the quarterback, is the most skilled position in football because we are the least athletic. We are big, heavy guys going against guys that are more athletic than us. So it takes time to develop the technique to be able to handle and operate efficiently at the level that you need to be able to do.
I think like when you look at it big picture, like there's a lot, right? There's a huge volume of what you're trying to teach. But in reality, if as a coach, like it's not rocket science what we teach. You know, like it's probably the science of it is like how you teach it. Like, can you make it simple? Like, can you teach guys things that you can convince them they already know this? You know, and I think that ability, that sequence of installation, that sequence of, hey, here's the next step, we already know this, kind of makes them feel really confident in the process. And it's helped, I think it's helped the guys. And when they're confident, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? It empowers them to help each other.
Perfect. Let's watch some tape, man.
Yeah. Some of that will come up.
Love it.
So like when we start off, when we go to fall camp, like, you know, the guys' goals are always like pretty simple. You know, if I go through the O-line, it's like win the Joe Moore Award, you know, win a national championship. And our goal is in that journey is maximize our full potential. I think Coach Freeman does a great job of saying it, but we'll read this. We'll read this as a group, and it's an awesome foundation for us, and it kind of brings back what it's all about to be an O-lineman. And then we'll go right in, and this is from Coach Moore.
Yep.
And he would, and I would be like, guys, sometimes it's all about like simple questions. You know, are you tough? Are you willing? Can I trust you? Like, can your teammates trust you? You know what I mean? What are you not willing to tolerate in yourself or the guys around you? And I go, simple questions, I go, is all you got to ask yourself. It doesn't have to be complicated. This right here, when you find a guy who gets beat and doesn't try to rationalize it, then you found a guy who has a chance to get better. We talk about rationalizing things a lot, like rationalizing when something's important. It's important that I'm a great teammate here, or I watched the guy in front of me, or how I finished in a walkthrough, or like it's easy to rationalize and say, well, I've been there before, I've done this, and we hit it on the nose, and we're honest about it. Like if something's bullshit, we call it bullshit, and we'll pull this up to remind ourselves of that. And then talking about, 5 is 1, like a group that cares about each other, that's there for each other. Like it's kind of what I love, and hopefully what every old lineman you bring in love, is probably this statement, right? The opportunity to go out there and play with physicality and violence and get after someone and have fun and confidence enough to cut it loose and go ahead and do it. And then this next one, you'll recognize this one.
I don't have to spend a whole lot of time on placing the hand placement. What I found that too much that kids get their hands up too high. I just want their elbows in. That makes them an athlete. Doesn't get them off balance, doesn't get them whacked out. When I first started coaching, people actually taught this. Now, I'm not too damn bright, but I knew that was wrong. The reason why I knew that was wrong was I grew up, it snowed, and the cars would get stuck. If you got behind a car and tried to push a son of a bitch like this, they wasn't going to move. So every time I pushed a car, I got like this.
Growing up in Pennsylvania in the snow and knowing how to move a car that's stuck in having your elbows in, that's what you just referenced, and we'll watch it, and it'll, like you said, how do you take 10 coaching points that you got of how to do a base block and you just tied it into a picture, and the simplicity of what you allow your players to embrace and not making it, I got to remember 10 coaching points, I got a picture of it and I can see it, but he's funny. He gets a big laugh, obviously, from it.
Let's take a couple clips of plays.
Yeah. What we did was we pulled some clips to show like growth.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where guys were. Like I think it's important. Like you're working your butt off. Sometimes you don't always realize like the growth that you're having or experiencing. You definitely feel different, but can you actually like put it to tape? And so we actually in this exercise we decided we're gonna pick a day each day in fall camp, and we're gonna like highlight a guy. Nice. We might throw on their recruiting page and have some fun with it. But this is a meal, okay? This was early on, all right? This is early on when he just was getting in at the end of ball games and battling. But you could see some footwork stuff, and so I'm looking at the right tackle, and you could see like kind of opening his knee, maybe pivoting, trying to get position, but not quite there with it yet. And you come back and kind of same idea. You come into there and you're a year later, and now you see better footwork, better step, better job of being able to run my feet. And sometimes, the journey we have as coaches isn't just on the field. It's identifying things that these guys can put into their routine. And you go down, and we got Coach Lando in the weight room, and I'll be like, hey, Coach, man, this is what I'm seeing on tape. Can you come watch this with me? And it's like, hey, I got something for that. Like we can put this in his routine. And this guy worked his butt off at that. And you can see the difference now. You can see the footwork, the fit, the finish, like it's showing up on tape for him. So when a guy is going through some stuff like that and he's trying to figure out how do I step better, like there it is. You know what I mean?
But I love what you're saying there with the meal. That first cut that we looked at, he steps under, right? He moves steps left or steps right to go left. And
no doubt.
That inefficiency is enough to get you beat, especially against a good player. And you learn the importance of being able to have a stance where you can move in all directions that you need to, have it look consistent. But as a young player, I'd come to the line of scrimmage and be like, is it a run or a pass? Is it left or right? I'm not thinking about technique and the nuances the coaching points. So that maturation that you talk about doesn't happen overnight. It takes repetition and time, and you can see it there. Instead of him doing this, he's just stepping. Now he can get cut off, he can get his base underneath him, he can drive, and he can finish.
And the resources you have now are different, if you couldn't figure it out, like that was it, like that was your limitation. And now it's like you watch and you study and you go, why aren't you taking this step? Is it stance?
Yeah.
Is it something that we got to do to like a mobility work that we can do? And you got people around that can pour into them and invest in them, and it's kind of neat. But that's what we'll go through and study.
You know, it's funny for the person at home that's watching this and the viewer. They probably didn't know what they were looking at, but appreciating sometimes it's going to be ugly, and that the win is getting a cutoff no matter what it looks like. Even if you get rolled over and the backer doesn't make the tackle, that's the win. You're going to take it. Now, do you want perfect technique? Do you want lower pad level? Do you want your eyes? You want your backside, arm, knee, head engaged with that guy? Yeah, but every play you drop on paper is perfect as well, right? So it's messy down there, and the thing that allows the good to become great at our position is being committed to the process to do it to the best of your ability. Because they pay those guys too on the other line. Now in college, that's the case. Maybe it was in certain conferences, not calling anybody out. It's just about trusting your technique. I think the thing that was the big unlock for me was when we learned how to combo block, that I realized I could block another human being, not even looking at them, with this part of my body. That I could hold firm and allow the back to go, keeping my eyes on my landmarks, just one-sided with one half of my body.
And you don't have to compromise the violence and velocity you play with.
Nope.
And that is hard because you want to look. And you know, we talk about eye discipline, eye progression. Like if your eyes, like how do you become a better athlete without doing one thing? You master your eyes, right? Your eyes are in the right place at the right time. They progress to the next thing in a timely fashion.
The last one, what's the most incredible thing you've ever seen on a football field?
I think to this day, the most incredible thing is when you see somebody be there for someone else, overcome something that they didn't think they could, and the excitement of the game is the best. When you see a whole offense tear off down the field to go celebrate with someone that just scored, and you see guys like just light up, you know what I mean? Like, that's why you do it.
I love it, man. Well, this has been great. It's so clear that your O-line room is in good hands, man. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I appreciated your work and what you were doing at Wisconsin. But to have you with your Western Pennsylvania ties be the Joe Moore offensive line coach here at Notre Dame, to follow Harry Heastan, one of his disciples, another great O-line coach in his own right. Just there's so many ties to this position and me and this school, and everything that you represent is what this award is trying to do. And you were semifinalists last year, and we'll be looking for more this year. Good luck to you, and have a great season. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, man. I appreciate what you do. Like the O-lines across the country, like they love it.
All right, it's now time for the Big Ugly Spotlight, and I am joined by a very good buddy, a dear friend of mine, lifelong homeboy. We met way back in 1990 on campus in South Bend, but he's a 25-year college football coach, been a DC at Notre Dame, been a DC at Eastern Carolina with Skip Holtz in all those years, linebacker coach at Florida State, and a partridge in a pear tree everywhere else in Minnesota and through the Midwest. So without any further ado, the guy that I probably watched more game film with than anybody else on the planet, Greg Hudson. Greg, how much film do you think we probably watched together?
A lot, and it's not in hours. We've watched days worth. You know, we might be getting into where we can start counting the actual time in weeks.
Well,
So
I'm
it's
enjoying it now because we get to actually watch film without secondhand smoke and having to kind of wave away so we can see the
It's
screen.
survivable. Yeah, it's survivable. It's got a longer shelf life for us to endure. Yeah, it's a little calmer.
Little calmer, no cigarette butts or punches being thrown. But hey, there's going to be some big punches thrown this weekend. It's a monster weekend of games, 3 top 10 matchups. A couple of those games feature ACC teams, so I want to dive into some film because you have the unique perspective of both being taught by Joe Moore as an offensive line GA back in the day, and then later evolving into a defensive coordinator. You're probably as well qualified as anybody to weigh in on what fans can expect to see in the trenches this weekend. So what do you say? Let's get rolling. All right, here we go up first. Keep your eye on left tackle, number 66. Now, this is Will Campbell. He's obviously off to the NFL, but when you're the LSU Tigers and you're taking on a Clemson front seven that has speed and twitch and players just like this, I wanted to show this play because this play is going to be the key to what I think is going to allow LSU to be able to have some success. Keep your eye on 66 here, Greg. I know you can appreciate what we're about to watch. Watch all the way through, and wapow! That's the play right there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a Tigers fan and you're a left tackle and offensive lineman, you got to set the tone early and not back down from Clemson, and Will Campbell does a great job there, Hud.
He did, and the young freshman gave him a gift early. Don't leave your feet. You're not going to block that ball against that guy, especially a young kid against a great player. You're like, just hold the edge, and I guarantee you're counting on the rest of the cats inside to do the leg work for any type of pressure. But, live and learn. I'm sure he's not going to get thrown around like that out of the gym many more times in his career.
All right, Hud, let's go back inside. Let's take a look at the left guard, because as good as Will Campbell is, 66 on the outside edge, the rule for offensive linemen is never let the defender to the hip of the adjacent lineman. That means you got to protect your buddy or this happens. What's going on?
Well, it's a gift to the D-line right here by 72 opening the gate. He's actually taken 2 A-gaps himself on the other side of the line of scrimmage, which is what you want first on that stunt. Then the tan stunt, tackling nose, he's going to come around, and the back's got to pick him up. So I like the way they run it. You can tell that this isn't a read stunt because you can see the nose guard standing up and looking. He's waiting for that to come. The other way they can run that, which is harder on the O-line, is they both attack, and whichever way the center turns, the guy that he turns away from runs the stunt, and you get a natural tan stunt up inside. It's one of my favorites. It's very effective. And it puts a defensive lineman on a running back usually, and that's why you want it. And it takes up 2 gaps with 1 dude.
All right, what are we looking at here?
Here we're looking at a flex double eagle is what I would call it. That guy out there outside of 66, you can just consider him the old 3 technique. They're just flexed out. Right now you got to go big here, and you're going to give the tailback. This is 6-on-6 football. They're going to be manned up on the outside. This is really 10 guys on 10 guys, 1-on-1. Somebody's got to win, and you got to communicate. But you see where the breakdown is as you roll it.
Yeah, this is a fan call for the offensive linemen. Look at their heads pre-snap, 66 and 72. They know they've got this too, so that should be an alert to this back that, hey, these guys are expecting to block those guys. If I'm a running back, I got to know what it is I want to do. And the reason I pointed this play out is because LSU was one of the best pass blocking units in the country a season ago, only 15 sacks allowed. They had very few breakdowns. They threw the mess out of the football. But early on in the season, communication is important. And that's why they've got to be careful here, because if the offensive line and the backs aren't on the same page, you can have breakdowns here. And that's exactly what happens to Garrett Nussmeier. Nobody picks up the linebacker, and it ends up being a sack.
Absolutely. And that's part of the running back's rule. He got the call big. I do know, and how loud it is at South Carolina, probably on this 3rd down play. But that play has been drawn up many times in practice, and that's just a blown protection all the way.
And this is why that's relevant. Here is TJ Parker, number 3, folks. This dude has a chance to be the edge player that's taken off the board first in next year's draft. He's an absolute creature, and this poor right tackle from Pittsburgh is going to learn the lesson why. And he's not alone here, man. This is a pretty good set by this kid, but he's too patient with his hands. He's got to attack. He's tentative with his hands. He's got them low, and when he goes to strike, now you see him, now you don't.
And they're running play action right here off of this, but nobody believes it's play action because the offensive line's setting so quick. So all that stuff in the backfield, I think, is irrelevant. You need to keep that tight end over there because to help that tackle, and don't worry about the ball fake. But again, this is another big, and you're getting a stun out of it. And the other beauty that we like on defense, if you watch these head-up nose guards, and the game's so much in shotgun right now, you're banking on eventually at some point you're going to get 1, 2, maybe 3 bad snaps in a game because of that head-up alignment. And that's part of your thought process of keeping that nose and moving them. But 77's got no chance here, especially when the shifting tight end took off.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And what's significant about this zero nose is it occupies the center. He's one-on-one in most cases. They also widen out. We've seen a lot of double eagle coming into college football, which basically means all 3 interior linemen are covered. Instead of 2-on-1 to a linebacker, 2-on-1 to a linebacker, it's one-on-one, 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 one-on-one. Clemson believes that their 5 are better than your 5 and that there's going to be a breakdown, and in this particular case, they were right.
Well, when I made that conversion from coaching on offense to moving over to defense, I made sure that the double eagle head up nose alignment and 2-3s was in my back pocket. No matter what defense of playbook we had, it was going to be in there.
Now, a lot of the things that Clemson does to be able to create some problems is in identification. The offensive line, these five have to take the five most dangerous. You also have a back in protection, but this is a situation where the pre-snap alignment starts right here. It's simple math, right? This guy comes from depth. He covers the guard. At first, there's only three defensive linemen, and then boom, everybody moves, and then chaos ensues, Greg.
That's true. And the other thing that's hard to do, and we make it difficult for the offensive line, is they can get situated in their brain that they're going to declare who the Mike linebacker is, and they're going to use his jersey number all the time. When they get locked in on that, sometimes just switching to Will and Mike in pre-snap alignment, the guys start relying on where's the jersey number, but not who the Mike linebacker is actually in the scheme of the defense. And that's what you can do with all this moving around, because here your Mike linebacker basically to the field here is the guy they want to declare as the Mike and then work off of that in their count. But when they start moving them around and that Mike moves, then you got to redirect or you just shift the whole thing. But the other thing is they're going to bring a visitor when that guy vacates, and that's where you got to start. You got to start looking at guys that are 7-8 yards deep now as possible counters in your protection, and some schools do a great job of disguising that.
Now I want to show you a good play on Clemson's offensive line and what it is they bring to the table. This is Florida State's defense from a season ago. A lot of the talk coming out of Clemson, South Carolina, is how improved this offensive line is. I'll be candid, they haven't been necessarily a strength. Clemson, to me, has been a team that has won despite their offensive line, not because of it. Now, admittedly, they do get some help here by some mistakes by the defense, but this just shows you when you get a hat on a hat and can cover up guys and do some quick identification with backers that are going to be able to fill downhill right away, good things can happen.
Right. This is a pocket full of MAs, and watching this a couple times, if you're bringing that safety down, that guy over the three techniques got to be a player in the middle, unless they're running the stunt. But he shouldn't be looping outside. I don't know what they're doing here. So that's probably part of the problem they had last year was probably assignment football. But this is a gift here for Clemson. They still got to block the movement. That's the thing that they're getting better at. You got a bunch of guys moving, but what you see is you got guys staying on those initial double teams and working to the second level. Which always worries me as a coach is if I see guys clean to the second level playing with a base, I start worrying about that, calling plays and defenses based on my linebackers getting sealed off. That's where I know those gap plays and inside zone plays can give you seams.
And I don't know what this D tackle's doing here, but he's got the biggest lobster claws I've never ever seen on a defensive lineman. He's hugging the guard there. So to your point about MAs, now these guys are good players and they make mistakes, but that's why, especially in the trenches, it's a game and position of leverage. You've got to be better with your hands there. They're not, and Clemson gets a house call as a result.
It is just so you know, it may be hard to understand, but when you put 4 defensive players in one C gap, that's usually bad. And you got a problem.
All right, another ACC game, Miami, Notre Dame. They've got a brand new quarterback in C.J. Carr. They've got the best running back in America in Jeremiah Love, who we're taking a look at here. This is game 1 last year on the road, Texas A&M. Very similar situation to what they're going to see at Miami. This is big boy football here in 12 personnel, meaning 1 running back, 2 tight ends on the outside edge, and it's just a simple running play. And they get them.
Yeah, they get them because when you this formation, creates those extra gaps. Now you've got 8 gaps you got to defend, and then when you lock in with 9 guys, you have to chase pullers. You can't just sit there and play the ball and hold your initial gap. There's a 2-gap exchange going on the other side of the ball where they're creating 2 new gaps to that side, and they haven't developed yet. 27 and is it 3 or 2? That corner out there, they got to be going with both those pullers and taking because they're outnumbered inside. They're going to wall off The left tackle is going to wall off the backside. They're going to create a seam. That's where 27 and then the next linebacker need to be. And number one's got a corner has got to fall in because 11 has the edge. But they're playing, it looks like they're playing man here. So the man free in this defense, this coverage slows down the linebackers on the pulls, because if they get play action and a wide delay, it's like telling the post defender, you got to take the pitch on the option also. That's hard to do. So you got man on that puller. Well, you better go with him, because if he runs a route, you got him.
So this last one is an example of manning up stunts. We've seen all the TANs and the gap exchanges and the TEs and the ETs. You never want to let the defender to the hip of the adjacent lineman, but sometimes you have to man it up. Now, that's a philosophical point of view. Most times coaches want you to exchange, but sometimes if you don't feel the bump, you stay on. I thought Miami did a good job here up front. Unfortunately, their quarterback didn't. And this was the result. So, Greg, I want you to talk a little bit about what you see on this.
You've actually you've blocked this defense right here with Texas A&M at ND at the Cotton Bowl. This is a version of the old split six from way back with the 2-3s and a satellite linebacker over the top there. Still, when you draw it up and block it, you can go big and treat it like double eagle and put that back on the other linebacker and you roll. I think I like this because it gets heads moving on with the offensive line, and then you may get a crease when the guys do stunt inside. It gives them a lot of freedom on some rushes, and you can see the stunt they're working on this field side. So that's the whole purpose of getting the big call out of the offense in order to run those stunts. But it does help when you throw it to the guy in the orange shirt and not the white one.
And this is a pretty good quarterback, Cam Ward, and I think this is just him not being on the same page. Sometimes he would get lazy with his throws, but that's really the storyline that a lot of Hurricane fans are interested to see is how is Carson Beck, the Georgia transfer, going to do in Miami's system? There's a lot of excitement in Coral Gables, what's going on in South Florida, and for good reason. But the way I look at it, Miami was pretty damn good at the quarterback position last year, this play notwithstanding. So how well their offensive line plays to keep Carson Beck upright, how well they're able to run the football is going to go a long way to what the Hurricanes do and whether or not they can improve and finally get to the playoffs, as many have predicted. All right, Big Dog, before we let you go, first of all, that was fantastic, man. We could talk for hours, and this is what we do when it's just us. There's no red light that's recording what we're doing. But based on what we saw with the Big Ugly Spotlight, what predictions do you have for fans this weekend, and what are you expecting to see?
Well, I would think Notre Dame would come out with the win down there against Miami. One, I saw them last year go into an inferno of heat in College Station. I was at that game where it's 1,000 degrees, and you know it's going to be 1,000 degrees down in Miami. You know they've weathered that storm. The other thing up front is not only are they replacing that quarterback at Miami, they're replacing Carpenter, the center. I only know of him because he's a Moeller guy. But it always made me nervous as a line coach every time I had to replace the center. And how was that first start going to be? How were we going to gel not only with him, with all the linemen, but with the new quarterback? And it's not a quarterback that was on the roster that he might have been working with as a number 2 for 2 years. But I think the weather, Notre Dame will endure that. And if they can run the football with their offensive line and that guy carrying the football, I would run that as much as I could if I'm coaching down there and get out of town as fast as I could. Don't stop the clock. Shorten the game.
No doubt, man. Well, Greg, we appreciate you coming by. We'll feature you throughout the season. I enjoy our conversations. All we're literally doing, brother, is putting a camera on the conversations we have all the time. So it's fun to bring this to the fans in a way that they've never seen before, maybe. And we know we have a lot of coaches and high school players that are watching as well. So let us know. Make sure you guys leave comments. We don't want to be talking over your head. We don't want to keep it too simple either, but let us know what you like. Let us know what you want to see more of, and we'll keep this thing rolling. We're here for you. This is a community, and you're inside of our huddle. So speaking of huddles, 2 teams that may not do very much of it, another big ACC matchup, is the Florida State Seminoles, and they've got a tough out against the Alabama Crimson Tide. And not long ago, I had a chance to sit down with Alabama's offensive line coach, Chris Kapilovic, who took us behind the scenes and did a film breakdown of what Roll Tide fans could expect from that unit this season. Duo, power, or counter? What's God's play?
Ooh, I've changed in my time, but I'm starting to lean towards that duo world. You know what I mean? Like I'm you would have heard power out of me early. I like me some counter now, but I love some duo. And you really love duo when you got 330 to 350 pound guys, getting hip to hip. So duo, I love me some duo. There ain't no doubt.
It's better than one double team, 3 of them.
That's right. That's right. There's no question about it. No question.
So you basically have 2 jobs. You're a full-time football coach, but you're also in sales. You got to keep your own guys on campus. You got to stay 1 to 2 classes ahead on these new guys coming in. How have you had to develop and change and adapt over the years to make sure that you can wear all those different hats and still get the product on the field that matters?
That's a good question. I've been asked that a couple of times. I think really above all else, as far as the retention part of it, is having great relationships with your players. I think that understanding how important that is. I'm a coach. I'm demanding on the field, and I push my guys. And I know that for me to be that tough coach on the field, they got to know that I love them, and I have their backs, and the things I'm teaching are going to make them better. And so I've always kind of learned that young in my coaching career to build a relationship with these guys are critical. It can't be just ball. I got to know what's going on in their lives. They got to feel comfortable to come up in my office and just talk to me about things that have nothing to do with football, getting the guys over to the house and hanging out with them, just kind of being real, And so I feel like I always tell my guys it's a 2-way street, right? They got to earn my respect, but I have to earn their respect. And I understand that. It's not the old school, hey, just do it my way and don't worry about, how we're going to do it. Like, I think it's important, man, when I'm teaching these guys, why are we doing it this way? If something we're doing is tough, being honest with them about it, but saying that's what we're about. We're going to get it done. And then recruiting, it's the kids haven't changed. It's everything else has changed, right? So that part's not 100% different. Now you're going to run across some people where the money's more important than everything else. I don't know if that's always the best fit, but, we figure it out. But I still believe deep down a lot of these O-line guys still want to be developed and want to be at a place that they feel like they can thrive and they feel comfortable being in that room of guys.
The one thing that's never changed and will never change in our sport and in our position is fundamentals. And I want to read you something that Joe Moore said about it. We were talking about Andy Heck, who's the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line coach currently. He was a tight end. Joe Moore turned him into an All-American and a first-round draft pick in 1 season by an abundance of a belief in the basics, and that was fundamentals. Here's what Joe Moore had to say. People who don't have strong fundamentals, they always have to search for a weakness in the defense. But if you're good enough fundamentally, you don't have to search. They'll give you the weakness. You just have to be good enough to take advantage of it. The only advantage you can have is to be more efficient with what you do than what they are with what they do. And boy, if that doesn't sum up what we do at the line of scrimmage day in and day out, I don't know what it is. Easier said than done, but that's the goal, seemingly.
Love that. Hey, can you send that to me? I'd like to read it verbatim to my guys. That is awesome. That is awesome. I love that. I love that.
Year over year, you cut Alabama's sacks in half, and that was incredible. I know the run game wasn't quite where you want, but we'll get into that. Like, I look at it on film and go, okay, it's going to be a different story this year. I'll let you tell that story. I can say those sort of things. But Parker Brailsford, there in the middle, I'm just curious about, from a smarts, intelligence, demeanor standpoint, what's he brought to your room?
I love Parker. The first thing is he's very even keel. He doesn't let the emotions of the game overtake his thought process and his communication, which is something you need with that guy in the middle, right? He's a strong enough presence to be a leader and make a decision. And when he makes a decision and makes a call, the guys follow it. So he takes that to the field and does a great job of communicating with the guys, which is so critical. And, he's really an intense competitor. When you talk to him and see him, He seems kind of a laid-back guy, but he really is an intense competitor. And, you know, people talk about his size and things like that. And he's really strong for his size. And so with his athleticism, his twitch, his feet, and his mental approach to the game, all of that tied together allows for him to be very successful and to help us get in position to be successful.
I want to give you a quick quote that Coach Holtz used to say about perfection. He goes, "Men, we're going to strive to be perfect every damn day. Now, the only person that's perfect's the lady on the dome, but our ass is going to get so close you won't be able to tell the difference."
I love that. I love that, man. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Just like you said, success leaves clues, man. I tell the guys in the room, you guys got a chance to play with a guy like Tyler Booker to see the way he works and prepares, and not everybody gets that opportunity. So success leaves clues. Take advantage of it.
Give us a scouting report on Ty Simpson, man. A little bit different quarterback you're going to have in the pocket this year from your perspective as an O-line coach and from the guys that are in front of him to keep him safe. Again, you improved the sacks year over year from 23, where there were 49, only 24 last year. What does Ty Simpson bring to the table, and give Alabama fans something to be excited about what this cat's going to bring to the field?
Yeah, Ty, you know, coach's son, right? And he's a little bit of a gym rat, you know. I see him up here all the time. I see him studying, you know. For some reason, those quarterbacks like to sit in the old line room and watch the film on their own and put little notes on the board. I don't know. Maybe they feel more comfortable being in there. But but he is a competitor. Man, it's I can't tell you how important it is to him. And, you know, he wants to be a perfectionist like we talked about. You know, people talk about he has the arm talent to make every throw. He's more athletic than people would think. You know, he can do some things with his feet that people probably wouldn't think. And so that's important as well. He does a good job of understanding what our scheme is and really wanting to understand how to get us in the best play possible. So, you know, he'll ask questions. Obviously, he's talking to Grubb all the time. He's talking to Coach Sheridan, you know, but he'll come to me and say, you know, what do you think? You like running that into that? Would you rather do this? And so he's very conscious of his role in this offense is to get us in the best position possible every play. And that's a lot for this program.
What we want to do is bring to the fans and really illustrate what's, I think, core to what the offensive line position's about, and that's development. None of us show up in the room and leave it the way that we came in. It takes time, and it takes skill, and it takes development. And, Chris, I know you put together a couple plays to be able to show what that's looked like when guys have entered your room, so I'll let you take it from here.
You know, you talked about our sacks cutting more than half, and, you know, a big part was the development of Proctor, you know, starting as a true freshman and then kind of working his way through. And I kind of wanted to show just some things that we saw from watching this film from last season to even early in fall camp. So you're looking at the left tackle right here. And the one thing that I wanted to talk about, you know, the tackle is responsible for the width of the pocket, but he's also responsible what I call the ceiling of the pocket, the roof. Okay. So the tackle should be able to give us width, but also has got to give you at least a 10-yard arc from behind the quarterback is what the goal is, right? So when you see him setting here, the one thing I wanted to point out from where the ball is, he's completely open at under 3 yards. So the problem here is if this defender starts to corner you at all, it's physically going to be impossible for him to get him outside of that 10-yard arc.
And
so
Cap, you're meaning his hips are open at this point.
So look at the end zone shot here. I just wanted to show the yardage from the side. At this point, right, he's now turned sideways, and he's within 3 yards of where the ball was, which is going to shorten the edge for this defender, right? Sometimes if you open early, you give a defender a two-way go to go inside or outside. So now as he's trying to stay on this D end, and I also want you to look at when he does open up, him clicking his heels, right? So there's a couple things happening here, and then the guy's able just to corner him to get this edge on him. So we didn't have him for spring. He didn't go through spring ball, right? So we get him for fall camp, and we're working on it over the summer. But you know how it is in the summer, man. You're not able really just to let it fly and go full speed. So this is just a one-on-one rep, and you can see some similarities here, right? He's So you can see he's kind of slow to the spot here. And once again, he's completely open inside that 3 yards, which allows him to get cornered. You know, if this quarterback's not able to step really far up in the pocket, he's going to get sacked. So we worked a ton on this, you know, getting into the season. So then I wanted to kind of take a look here, and I'll show you a wide shot, same type of play. You see where the ball is, right? It's just his tempo to the spot is a little bit better, right? He's in position here. He's square longer. And really when he's in position where he has to open, he's almost 6 yards from the ball. So he's improved the tempo to the spot, the depth to the spot, and staying square longer, which will allow him to be successful. So if you're watching from this view here, he's still under control. You know, we can talk 3 hours about the outside hand punch, independent hands, you know, circle replay, strike, all that stuff. But the biggest thing I wanted to show was his improvement of getting to the spot, staying square longer. He's not clicking his heels, and he's able to maintain the width of the pocket on this line.
It's so difficult to stay patient. And that's why I think universally offensive linemen love to run block, because run blocking is aggressive aggression. Pass blocking is passive aggressive. You have to retreat slowly with intent, and that's hard when you got a quick twitch creature on your outside shoulders. So his ability to get depth and stay square, what the defenders are trying to do is get to a half of a man. They want you turned. That does their job for them. So by him being able to get some depth and stay square, now that player's got to go to his second move. And when we do that, now we're dictating the terms, and that's a great improvement that you just showed there.
And then, you know, I wanted to get this clip on here, and you'll see it here, you know, once again, against Georgia, 2 NFL guys. You know, we work on this all the time. Just go ahead and we work on blocking 2 guys at once. You know, it's just one of those things we do. I want to give some love and put this on here, man.
Love it.
5-man pro, they're bringing 6, and he says, hey, I'm going to handle it. You know, this is awesome. This is awesome. He does just enough to get both those guys, get that ball out. So I'm giving him some love right there.
Beautiful.
Then I wanted to get to Parker. I just wanted to give him some love here, right? Because he's so important in what we do, and he's such a good player. And what we want to talk about, we talked about duo a little bit, right? So we're running duo here for those people here to the left. And so the job for Parker is what's really important to us in the backside combo is we want him to get to the hip of the defender. So what I wanted to point out here is when he makes contact, he's really hitting the shoulder of the defender. When you hit the shoulder of the defender, you're not going to move him. If you can see right here, the feet of that defender don't move. So now it makes it tougher on the guard to overlap, and he's not in great position to get to that linebacker. So what I wanted to show for him, we ended up throwing it out, even though there's a pretty good hole right there. All right, so I wanted to show the improvement from him earlier in the season to later in the season. Same type of block. The linebackers obviously is minused over, which makes it a little better. But he does a great job here. Sometimes you got to take that 3rd and 4th step, right, to get to that hip. He does a great job getting to the hip. You can watch the defender here, right there, right, where he gets to that hip, knocks him off balance, makes Booker's job easy. And then what's really important is when he gets to that next level, being balanced, bringing his hands, coming from up under and bringing his hips, and does a great job here staying on that block through the whistle. Like, that's a tough thing to do, man. As you know, is staying on that block. Man, he's sticky right here. That's the one thing, one of his strengths is when he gets on you, he'll stay on you. So that was a tremendous improvement from earlier season to later. And then I wanted to just show this here. I thought it was important because everybody questions his size. We're running another version of duo here. Here he is with a 0 nose. This kid he's going against is 6'6", 335 pounds. It's a big man, right? And so you see right here is just him moving them out and creating space. So for all those guys out there that question his size and power and what he can do, here it is on tape, man, moving a big man against his will and creating space for us to go ahead and be successful.
You are what you put on tape, right? That's your business card, that's your calling card, that's your resume, and there's a lot of beautiful stuff there. His ability to keep his feet underneath him and take that 2nd or 3rd step, if that's what it takes. Young players, I think, try to overstep and overreach and make contact right out of the gate. It's your 2nd step and that backside shoulder and making sure your feet are underneath it where you get that power. That first one gets you going. It's your landmark step. But that second one being in the ground is where you can move people. That defender moves and your feet are underneath you, got a shot. And that sticky ability, that finish. He didn't just settle up to the linebacker and catch him and be like, hey, I've got him walled off. That shuts the hole down. He accelerated through, and at some point that defender's got to let go to try to make the tackle, and that's when we got his Those were beautiful shots that you showed about what's taking place in your offensive line room. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Chris Kapilovic is one of the best developers of talent in all of college football. Oh, look at you. Made it all the way to the end, grinding through like it's play 18 and 9 on 7. So pancake that subscribe, smash that like button, and pull around the corner to share this video with your buddies. Trench life rolls best when the whole crew's in the huddle.